to the garage. I know it has been a long hiatus, and there is a very special reason for that. This is a different garage, yes. We have moved, finally. I know I mentioned in the last video, and probably the one before that, that we were looking at moving. Well, we've finally done it, especially during this year. In the area I am, coronavirus has been a huge problem, so moving with all of that was another added stress. Anyway, what we're going to do today is, if you haven't already noticed in the title, which I'm sure you have, is my Chevy's got a piece of side molding falling off. It's already half off. We're going to pull it off the rest of the way, and I'm going to show you how to clean it off a little bit, and then stick it back on with some new side molding adhesive tape and do a far better job than what I've had dealerships do in the past with side molding. So without further ado, I think what I'll do is show you the garage, and then get queued up here, show you the new garage rather. It's a bit of a mess, as you can see probably already, and then get queued up for the job today. Alright, let's get a walk around of the garage. I know I said I was going to give you a quick tour. This is the door. Obviously it's a much better door than the last one. Quieter motor, got all the stuff up on the walls. Built these shelves yesterday. That's part of the reason why it's been so long. I've been finding places and building places to put all my stuff. Built these shelves probably about a month ago, maybe a little less. Got those bins at Home Depot when they were on sale, and that is the workbench. So this is the part of the garage you're used to seeing. Obviously it's filled with stuff. We need to build the pegboard for it still, and get rid of all of this garbage sort of down here. That is coming, obviously. So without further ado, I will walk us out to the truck today. I know it's been a while, and sort of just show you the problem. Was that this is a new camera that I'm filming on. I'm using, actually you can probably see it here, maybe? There, it's a decent angle. It is a Nikon D3500. It's actually my wife's camera I got for her, which she doesn't use too often, so upgrade from the phone, hopefully, and let me know if you guys think it's any better. So here's the panel, here's the passenger side of the truck, coming in here to the body piece. The molding here is just completely pulled away. Let that focus. Come on, there we go. You can already see the original tape line here has come off. So essentially what's involved is removing the tape line on the top, here, which is already done for us, and then the sides, and then along the bottom, all the way to that end and then up. Because the top's already done, it is a lot easier to start. I already have a whole bunch of room to purchase here. When doing this stuff, you'll want to use a heat gun or hair dryer, as the case may be, to get the tape off the vehicle and off of the molding panel. And don't expect this to be a fast thing. If you want to do it right, it's going to take a while. This old tape is dirty and dried out and crumbling. Even with a proper heat gun, this will just kind of crumble off, and it will take quite a while to remove it all. But you do want to remove it all. If you don't, the new tape won't stick very well. Once it is removed, keep an eye on in terms of where you're going to be putting the molding back on, level, height-wise, and then forward and backwards. When you get it off, we're going to be washing it all down with like an alcohol here to get it super clean. Get the new tape on. If you do it without the heat gun, or you do it too quickly, you do run the risk of obviously like chipping or damaging the paint, which we don't want to do. Although if you do have that happen to you, if you kind of nick the paint job, it doesn't really matter too much, because you're putting this panel back on. However, if you're taking them off for good and you don't want to put it back on, then really take your time so you don't ruin the paint underneath. So without further ado, go ahead and get the hair dryer, get the extension cord, heat this up, and start pulling it off. Alright guys, we're back out here we've got, again, this piece coming off, and my quote-unquote heat gun. This is just my wife's hairdryer. I don't own a heat gun. My brother has a heat gun, but it's at his house, and he is out of town. So we're using this guy now. If you actually have a heat gun, be careful you don't set the heat too high. You don't need a ton of heat. This is a hairdryer. It is plenty. If you do have a heat gun and it's too hot, you risk damaging the paint. So just set it to, you know, typical, too hot to touch, but not much hotter than that. Anyway, I got started here just a second ago, off camera, to see what extent of the job would be. Getting this piece off, I think, will be quite easy. The sides came off already, and maybe a matter of seconds here. So what I'm going to do is get the base here, spray it with the heat gun, and then once it's off, I'll meet back up with you taking this bit off of the door. Okay, once you've gotten it back a little bit, so you can pull it off, what you do is you angle it back like this, and if you were to imagine the camera as the heat gun, you just kind of work it back and forth like this while pulling back on the trim piece until it works free. As you can see, you can see a little bit of the white of the tape as it's peeling back. That's all fresh tape that's been exposed from the heat gun. So I'm going to finish working this off off camera, and then show you what it looks like once we get the piece off. Alright, we've gotten the side molding completely removed. Now it's time for the laborious process. For me, this one came off pretty quick. I've done a few more in the past before I had the channel set up, and it took a little bit longer to get the panel off, but we saved some time because it had already come off of the top. Essentially, you don't want to go too fast. Be patient. Let the tape heat up enough to become tacky, and once it is, you can kind of slowly pry it off. Depending on your vehicle, most vehicles I think now would have plastic trim. If it's plastic, make sure it's not, the trim itself is not so old and brittle that you pull so hard it ends up cracking the trim, because that would be the worst possible outcome. Anyway, I'm going to go heat up all of this, get all this off, and once all that's off, we can clean the door, because we can't put anything back on that door right now. And then the trim piece itself is over here, sitting on a makeshift weight bench. So let me get out of the sun here. Alright, so this is the trim piece. Again, it's when you're working with this, it's really easy to be tempted to just sort of treat this like, I don't know, something that isn't from your car's paint job, and accidentally scratch it, especially after you start working with it for a few hours. It gets really frustrating trying to clean off the back, but make sure you take extra special care and do this maybe inside or on a carpeted surface when it's flipped over, peeling the leftover bits of tape off of the base. Come on, there we go. Think, maybe? Gotta put this down on some cardboard. So make sure you take extra special care here in peeling the tape off of the leftover tape off of this, because it is very easy to forget yourself and you accidentally scratch this guy, which you don't want to do. There we go. Okay, very easy to scratch this guy, which you don't want to do. So what we got to do is two things: heat up the remaining trim on the vehicle, heat up the remaining trim on the molding itself, trim tape rather, and get it all off, and then all nice and clean. That will take a while, but once it's done, it is worth it, because it makes putting it back on very easy and very straightforward. So I'm going to spend about an hour off camera heating up the trim on the door, probably ruining my fingers, and then doing the exact same to this piece here. And I'll meet back up with you when it's all removed and ready to clean the door and clean the piece. Alright, we've got the extra tape here removed for the most part. And I say for the most part because there's some gunky stuff up here that I'm going to try and get off completely with some soap and water and some elbow grease. The non-marring pry bar worked very well. My fingernails are still on my fingers, which is excellent. I will say though that if you're planning on leaving the trim piece off the truck, it's probably best if you maybe not, just maybe don't use it as much. Especially with the dirt that's in here, I might wipe it down first, take a little more care of the paint. Since I'm putting it back up, I don't really mind that much. If you're maybe going to scratch the clear coat, you might end up needing to buff something out. But if you do, it's not too difficult a task. Anyway, I'm going to go work on the other piece now. And then come back, wash this up with some soap and water, and walk you through reattaching it. Alright guys, we've got the back side as well as the front side of this molding piece wiped down. I had that upside down drying earlier, and I've since washed down the door panel, and you can see there's some residual tape, pieces left over. Wipe that down the best you can if you're just putting the molding back on. If you're going to be leaving it off permanently, then I would suggest using a mild cleaner, maybe as something as stringent as alcohol, which I'll probably come through with here on with a little alcohol and a rag to try and get some of this extra sticky goop off. But wipe down the whole door, and took the truck to get washed because I needed to clean the whole thing, and it was just a good moment to do that. So we're clean now. I'm going to go ahead, wipe down some of this stuff off camera, just a rag and alcohol, and then I'll come meet you back once we put the tape, I guess the molding tape, back on this trim piece. Okay, we've got the tape opened up, the piece down here laid out. Essentially, it's just double-sided tape that's kind of thick and rubbery. All you gotta do is open it up. Careful not to touch it on the sticky side. You want to maintain as much of the original stiction as possible. Open it up, lay it down, and press. And initially just press to set it in place, but really work it back and forth here. Friction will heat it up, warm it up, get it worked into those bumpy areas, those lumps in there, and keep it from falling off the trim piece. So really work it into those grooves as hard as you can. Once you've got that worked in, go ahead and grab a knife, which I have to do now. Go ahead and grab a knife and then cut it to size. For me, that'll be about there. And then run it down the other side lengthwise. So open it up, lay it down nice and gently, press and hold, run it down the length, make sure it's pressed straight in, it doesn't sort of wobble off course. As a side note, 3M does sell other widths of tape. They sell ½ inch, ¼ inch, 1 inch, 3/4 inch. I think they sell 1 inch. I know they sell 1/4 and 3/4. For whatever your application may be, or wherever trim it is, wherever you're putting the trim. So once you've got that lined up, again, this bottom edge curves and this tape is flexible, so just curve it with the edge and press down as you curve to keep it lined up in place, and continue applying the tape. Once it's met up with the original edge, go ahead and slice this here. Now we got to do this near side here. And you'll see there's this tab for tape here. I'm going to go ahead and put it on that tab. Right there. Again, the key is to press and rub back and forth to activate the tape. Keep it nice and warm via friction. That will work it into any grooves that will better hold the tape down the road. Now, it's not like it's a glue or anything that really needs activating, but heating it up and making it softer and more flexible will keep it better worked or better seated into these mounting points. After you've got the tape seated, you then pull up on these red plastic plies, peel plies, to expose the other side of the tape. Got it. Okay. That's that one. Okay. Got those two started and peeled. Open this one up completely. And then get the other two done. I'll skip ahead to when I've got this all unpeeled and meet you over at the truck. Alright, got the piece prepped here, door prepped. Basically you just kind of line it up and slowly apply it. Once you've got it lined up, just press down firmly along the whole length of the piece, top and bottom and sides. Apologies for the dog barks in the background, but go ahead and remove camera from the tripod here. There we go. Okay, so this is how it'll look when you're done. Pretty much how it's supposed to. There's not really any gap here. That's what you're going for in terms of a finished look. Pretty much like it never happened. So any questions for what I did, obviously you can throw them down below, but the other thing you want to remember when you're doing this, do it on a day where there's not going to get wet later that day or the next day, and try not to drive it very often, just to minimize any kind of bumps that might interfere with this sort of stiction process. Leave it be for a day or two if you can. That'll help it adhere better. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in this week. I know it's been a while since we've had a video. If you enjoyed watching what we did today, getting that molding piece fixed up, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on, all that stuff. I know it has been a while. I've been real busy moving. If there's any interest in it, let me know and we can do a few videos on the shelving that I did here and there, and some more that I plan on putting in right there. and also the pegboard video, and then possibly shop lights. So we got a lot of stuff to do in here, a lot of plans for it. So if you guys are interested in seeing any of that, let me know, and we can sort of segue into that kind of a, I don't know, detour on the channel a little bit. Again, I do plan on getting back to the usual truck stuff here in the long run. So if you enjoyed what you saw today, if you've seen my other videos, consider subscribing if you haven't already. Until then, till next time.